Legion of Superheroes. Long live the Legion. It's your boy Icon with a DC review for you. We's back, dog. Going over a little Supergirl and Legion of Superheroes. This was pretty cool. Had a lot of throwbacks to some Arrowverse stuff. And before I get started with the Supergirl review, let me go and say that check out the Tacos and Geek podcast with myself, Sean, Justin, and Gotham Geek Girl Nadia, because we just did a breaking news emergency podcast regarding the whole James Gunn DC thing. So if you want to know my thoughts on the James Gunn slate, if you want to know my thoughts on each individual project and where the DC universe is going forward, then you can check that out. The link will definitely be in the description below for everybody to look at. From a CW standpoint, I did see that a couple of days ago, James Gunn did tweet that he intends to give Superman and Lois more seasons. So the Arrowverse isn't dead, everybody. Like, we still got a pulse. There's still a heartbeat going. And although The Flash is ending with season 9, it looks like the Arrowverse will continue in some way, shape, or form through Superman and Lois. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that and see where things go. But for this one, we are talking about Supergirl and the Legion. Long live the Legion. So this particular DC film starts because the last one we just did the Super Sons. I said now we're doing the Supergirl, and then after that we get Batman Doom, I believe. But in this one, it starts on Krypton. It gives you the Kara Zor-El side of, the whole Krypton explosion. You see her talking to her mom, and then her mom was just like, hey, you're about to become a member of, like, the army or whatever, the Kryptonian army. And, like, they're talking, her mom is jogging, and then the sky turns red, and that's when Krypton is about to explode. It shows her mom trying to save the city that they were specifically in, because they were in Argo City, and her mom was like, oh, I tried to create a force field barricade around the Argo, but it's not working. And then she was just like, oh, the barricade's gonna fail, so I have to put you in a rocket and send you to Earth after, Kal-El, which is Jor-El's son. And then, she was just like, oh, she made a comment about how she didn't like babysit Kal, but she puts her in the rocket. And then a la the Supergirl storyline, we see Supergirl flying off into space. They didn't show Kal's rocket, but it showed Supergirl's rocket, following his to Earth. But then it got hit with a meteor, and then her pod, as the Supergirl intro says, my pod got knocked off course, and by the time I arrived on Earth, my cousin had already grown up to become Superman. So we get that whole thing. We get Kara. She's in Metropolis. She got the glasses on, looking like a nerd. They're taking the storyline from Justice League Unlimited. Because in Justice League Unlimited, they had a whole Supergirl storyline with her and Green Lantern and everything. But then they did an episode where I guess like Kara had turned 21, and then she had changed her costume because she used to wear like the white t-shirt and like the mini skirt, and then she put a more traditional like Supergirl costume on with the red, white, and the blue and everything. And then that's, it was like her birthday. It was an episode where her, Green Lantern, and Green Arrow, they ended up going to the future. They met the Legion of Superheroes. She fell in love with Brainy, and then she told, Clark she wasn't going to come back because Earth is kind of like primitive to her, and it's like a little backwards, and she misses like the technological advances of Krypton. So they actually took that. This is the storyline that they're going with. So she's on Earth, and she's a little moody, she's a little broody, just like James Gunn said in his Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, where she was a little like, she's very aggressive too, because again, like for her, being on Earth is like being in the Stone Age, and she's trying to figure out how certain things work. She doesn't know that she's supposed to read certain billboards. She thinks everything is computerized, and she thinks robots handle everything. But like I said, she's trying to like adjust to new life and everything. And then at that moment, that's when Solomon Grundy, who's born on a Monday, and when Solomon Grundy shows up, Supergirl tries to fight him. Grundy disrespects her because he's just like, oh, you're not Superman. And then Batman shows up out of nowhere and distracts him so Superman can knock him out. So now Supergirl, she's feeling a little like dejected because she's just like, I'm not thriving here. And then Batman was just like, look, this girl crazy. He said that she's a loose cannon. She's upset. She doesn't even care. He said, and that was the whole thing. Batman's whole thing, it wasn't even about the issues that she was having, like the internal teenage problems that she was having. Batman's specific problem was, he said that when it comes to fighting the good fight for truth and justice, everybody legitimately cares about, their fellow men and women, and they want to make the world a better place. Like Batman flat out said, he was like, she doesn't seem like she cares. Like she doesn't seem like, like she has that care in her. And then, she overheard him because of super hearing. She got mad. She flew away. Her and Clark were talking on the barn, and then she was just like, oh, it's too backwards here, and I hate it here. And then he was like, well, give it a chance. And then she was like, no. And then he was like, well, if if being at this time period in Earth is too slow for you, he was like, let's try something different. So he pulls a time bubble out of his pocket. He throws it up in outer space. It creates like a window into the 31st century. And he brings her through the portal to the 31st century and introduces her to the Legion of Superheroes. Now, while that was happening, Batman was investigating the Solomon Grundy situation, because not only did Solomon Grundy attack Metropolis, Solomon Grundy also had a gun. And I was, and even I was like, why does Solomon Grundy have a gun? Batman looked into the gun, and then he found like some crystal thing inside the gun, and then he was just like, something weird's going on here. He was like, why does Grundy have this sort of technology? The Flash showed up, and then Batman was just like, yo, we gotta pull some shit out our ass because something's going on. We need to figure out what's happening. So there's another storyline that's happening in the present as far as like, Batman looking into this crystal stuff and, and this bigger plan. But then, like the momentum shifts now, because after Superman dropped Kara off in the 31st century, he went back to go deal with that as well, and then we didn't see them again until the very, very end of the film. Supergirl now, she's in the 31st century, she's introduced to the Legion, and we get a Mon-El sighting, like good old Mon-El from the Supergirl TV show. Mon-El, the Prince of Daxam, like he's there. We see like all the Legion favorites like Bouncing Boy and Saturn Girl and Phantom Girl, and Triple Girl, all the favorites that you remember from the Legion of Superhero. The only difference is, with the exception of maybe like one or two, the Legion of Superhero characters that we've seen over the course of time, they were a part of the Legion, but they were considered the cadets. They weren't actually members of the Legion yet. Like Mon-El was a cadet, Brainiac 5 was a cadet, Bouncing Boy was a cadet, Phantom Girl was a cadet, Supergirl was a cadet. Whereas like when we've seen these people before, they're actually full-fledged Legionnaires. They didn't even show the Legionnaire rings, which I thought was weird. But anyway, so like they're the recruits, and Kara's in the recruit class. Said they meet all these people, and then of course when Kara sees Brainiac, all hell breaks loose, because she's like, oh, it's Brainiac. He tried to kill my cousin and tried to take over the world, and then Brainiac was like, that's not me, I'm Brainiac 5, I'm a 12th level intellect, because he said that like 50 million times. And then the two of them are beefing and they're fighting and then everything, and then there's a competition to see like who's better. And then the Legion was just like, listen, y'all gotta, he was like, look, you gotta give Brainy a chance, because he was voted into the Legion the same way everybody else was. And then somebody was like, yo, I checked those records, ain't nobody vote for his ass. So there was like some shenanigans afoot, and people were actually giving Brainiac the side eye, because he is a Brainiac. And they said that, he's Brainiac 5. Brainiac's 4, 3, 2, and 1 at some point tried to take over the world, so everybody's just like keeping a close eye on him or whatever. Mon-El, he's just like, oh, Superman was my inspiration, and Krypton was the best, and I miss Krypton, and I love Krypton, and truth, justice, and all this bullshit. So Kara's trying to get used to everything. She likes the technology. She likes the 31st century because it does remind her of Krypton. So she's trying to get to know her new friends. She's getting to know like the new 31st century technology, but at the same time, she's also side-eyeing Brainiac because she doesn't trust him. Now, there's a moment where somebody tried to steal some machine, and during the machine, like Brainiac, Kara saw Brainiac like running through the corridor at night, and then she went to go follow him, and then she saw like these hooded figures on top of a building, and then when her attention was taken, she heard a scream, and then when she heard a scream from the direction that Brainiac was running in, Triplicate Girl, Triple Girl? It was Triple Girl or Triplicate Girl. It's basically some black girl. She could turn herself into 3 people. She was found dead on the scene, so we were like, oh shit, Brainiac killed her, because Brainiac was the last person to run in that girl's direction. The Legion leaders showed up, and then like they arrested Brainiac because they accused him of killing Triplicate Girl first of all, and then they accused him of trying to break in to this vault to steal some machine, and then they were just like, oh, we also found out that you hacked into our systems and you made yourself a Legionnaire, we weren't even voted on, so there's shenanigans afoot. They lock up Brainy, and then for some reason Kara was the only person who thought he was innocent, because Kara was like, well, first of all, he's been telling us for like the longest he's a 12th level intellect. If he went to go steal this machine and then bumped into Triplicate Girl and then killed her and then ran off, why would he come back to, why would he come back to the scene of the crime? And then one of the Legionnaires was just like, oh, Triplicate Girl, threw him off of his game, but he came back to finish the job. And then Kara was like, yeah, that's a dumb plan. And he's been telling us over and over and over again, he's not an idiot. So why would he do something that stupid? But then, the Legionnaires were just like, so what? It's Brainiac, don't think about it too hard. So, so Kara being Kara, she's just like, nah, something's up. And then she goes downstairs and even then, like when Brainiac was being taken away, say? He was like, oh, I'm here investigating like the shadow. What was it? The shadow, the dark. What was no the Dark Zero? Like it was like the Dark Zero gang or the Shadow Dark gang or the Black Dark gang. Something like I forgot their name. But anyway, it was like it was basically like some Dark Zero gang or whatever. It been like Shadow gang or something like that. But then when Brainiac said the word, when he was like Shadow gang, Kara was like, yo, that name means something to me. She was like, it sounds familiar. So she did some research, and then like the computer told her that Shadow gang, they've existed like, throughout like the last 100 years or whatever, like throughout the last century. So she's just like, you know what? She goes downstairs, she busts Brainy out of prison. She tells him, she's like, I believe you. I think you're innocent, and let's try to find out what's really going on around here. So the two of them, they go off, like they try to prove his innocence. They go down to where the machine is to see if they can find the person who's truly trying to steal this machine. And then while they're there, they bump into Mon-El. Mon-El's like, oh, he's like, I trust Supergirl with all my life. And if Supergirl thinks you're innocent, Brainy, he was like, then I believe you too. So let's go down there together. They go down there. In order for them to get into the room that has this machine that everybody's after, they have to solve a puzzle. Brainy being a 12th level intellect, he's the only person who can actually decipher the puzzle. And then once he deciphers the puzzle, Mon-El shoots him and stabs Kara with a kryptonite dagger, because Mon-El is the bad guy and he's been working with the Shadow group, like the Shadow gang. He's been working with Shadow gang this entire time. And I thought like, wow, that's an interesting little twist. It reminds me of the Green Lantern animated series that I did a review for, when you find out that Hal Jordan in the end is the bad guy. So to see like Mon-El be the bad guy, and Mon-El's reasoning for being the bad guy was, he was like, oh, he said that I miss Krypton, I miss Daxam, and what the Earthlings. He said that this technology, these advancements, the world needs to be taken over by people that know what they're doing. He said not these like sea-level heroes that the Legion has, like Bouncing Boy and everything. He was like, nah, that's some bullshit. He said we need like the real people in charge of this shit. And then we find out that the person who's behind the Shadow gang happens to be the original Brainiac. They said that at one point he got shot in the brain with a kryptonite bullet. They thought he was dead, but the Shadow Council, the Shadow gang, ended up preserving his brain. They took his other siblings and used his other siblings to create a body for him, for his brain to go to. And Brainiac is their leader. He's the leader of the Shadow gang, and he's trying to, and he tricked Brainiac 5 into solving that puzzle so they can get into that room, because he's the only 12 level intellect. So they can get into that room and he can get the machine. The machine that he has, it allows him to rewrite reality. So he's going to use it to rewrite reality and put Brainiacs in charge of the entire cosmos. Supergirl and Brainiac 5, they ended up escaping thanks to Phantom Girl, because they showed Phantom Girl before. And when they tried to introduce Supergirl to Phantom Girl, she like ran and like hid into the walls. And then when I thought about it, she never came out of the wall. So like Homegirl, she's been trapped in the wall this entire time. And then Phantom Girl ends up pulling Brainiac and Supergirl into the wall with her into this secret room. And then we find like the other Legionnaires, like the black dude who can turn himself invisible, like Phantom Girl, obviously. Triplicate Girl was there, but now there's only two of her. Because what happened was, she was just like, yeah, Mon-El, because she said that she ended up making a copy of herself because she heard Mon-El coming. She heard something was going on. She made a copy of herself to go see what was going on, and Mon-El killed her copy, but then Phantom Girl pulled her into the wall before he could kill the rest of her. She can't create 3 versions of her anymore. She can only create 2 because Mon-El killed the third one. So she's no longer Triplicate Girl. She's now Double Girl, or she's now like Duplicate Girl because now she can only make duplicates. So then, they come together. They're just like, oh, we got to come up with a plan. They end up freeing Bouncing Boy and the other cadets of the Legion of Superheroes. They fight the Brainiac monsters. They fight Mon-El. They fight the Shadow Board. They take down the entire Shadow Board. They defeat everything. And then Supergirl and Brainiac 5, they end up going to where Brainiac is. Brainiac was actually... And the funny thing is, they actually didn't defeat Brainiac. Brainiac defeated himself. Because, again, his children, we'll call them, like Brainiacs 2, 3, and 4, he used the 3 of them to create a body for himself. And when they got to the machine, and when they got to the point where they were allowed to use their mind to, rewrite reality, the other 3 Brainiacs pulled themselves out of him, and they fought over control, because they were just like, whoever controls this machine can rewrite the world however they want. And they fought the original Brainiac for control. So it was almost like he kind of defeated himself with his hubris and his narcissism. So I thought that was actually pretty funny, because Supergirl didn't defeat him at all. Like I said, he beat himself. And then after he destroyed himself for fighting with himself, because when all 3 of them split apart, like his body basically like deteriorated, and then he died. And then after that, Kara went over to the machine to try to like put reality back to normal. And then while she was in the machine, she saw her mama, and then she was just like, oh, I could bring back my mom, and I could bring back, you know, Krypton. And then Brainiac 5 was like, yeah, but, you know, reality's still going to crash in on itself. And then he was like, it's not worth it. And then she said, fuck it, and she put everything back the way it was. So Supergirl saves the day. You know, Supergirl and Brainiac 5 save the day. The two of them, you know, because they were together the entire film, they have a thing for each other now. I wasn't seeing it, but, you know, Brainiac 5 and Supergirl, they're boyfriend and girlfriend now. And Supergirl decided to stay amongst the Legion of Superheroes. And then when the big boys of the Legion come back, they saw that they had protected, you know, like the Legionnaires, the headquarters, that they captured, you know, Mon-El, who was a traitor, and they stopped Brainiac. So they decided to make all the cadets full-blown Legionnaires, and now they're all members of the Legion of Superheroes. Long live the Legion. And that's how the movie ended. And thank you for tuning in. We ended up getting like a post-credit scene, because remember all that stuff that was happening on like the regular 21st century with Batman and Superman and the Flash? And it turns out that, because at the end, Supergirl, she had opened a portal to the 21st century so she could talk to Clark and tell Clark like everything that happened with the Legion and with Brainiac, and then to introduce him to Brainiac 5. She was like, this is my boyfriend. And then Clark was like, you know, that's all good. He said, I'm happy for you, but let me go because something's going on back here and I gotta do some Superman shit. So then Batman was like, you're not gonna tell her what's going on in the 21st century? And he was like, no, because she seems happy and I don't want to pull her out. Because he said that, now they're gonna do a sequel where she's gonna have to come back to the 21st century to save the Justice League, because there were like these bomb holes all over the place, and then some red beam came out of the sky and it blasted Superman and Batman and they disappeared. My theory is that this is Apocalypse. Darkseid is here, and because that's how Solomon Grundy got the gun. It was an apocalyptic, yeah. It was an apocalyptic weapon that Solomon Grundy had, and I believe that was a teleportation Omega beam that was sending Superman and Batman off to Apocalypse. So there's going to be a sequel to this film, and the sequel to this film, it's going to be Supergirl and the Legion of Superheroes coming to the 21st century to rescue the Justice League, because Superman is supposed to be the one that inspires hope for the Legion all across the land. And I'm actually down for that, because this was a good movie. Like I said, it was a good movie. It had a lot of elements, like I said, that they pulled from Justice League, you know, Unlimited. It had some elements that they actually pulled from the Supergirl TV show. Just like with the Super Sons, how they use the Starro thing, you know, like I said, it's a story that we do know, but it was still entertaining. And I like all the characters that they put together, and I'm interested to see where it goes. So share your questions, comments, and or concerns down below. Let me know what you think about the Legion of Superheroes and Supergirl. Are you excited for the sequel that will have them come to the 21st century? What did you think of Kara Zor-El's character? Where things go, and we will continue to talk about it. Once again, check out the Otakos and Geek podcast. The link will be in the description, where myself, Nadia, Sean, and Justin discuss the James Gunn situation slate with the DCU as we roll forward, because on February 8th, we get the returning Flash, and we can give them his flowers and say goodbye to the fastest man alive. So that was it, guys. So thanks for tuning in for my review for Supergirl and the Legion of Superheroes. Look out for my review for Batman Doom. And until then, long live the Legion, and we're out this